The observation deck of the Celestial Harmony hummed with the usual sounds of a multi-species vessel, the chittering of Vextar translators, the low rumble of Croatian breath cycles, and the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Latine Mara stood at the viewport, her three eyes narrowed in what the humans aboard had learned to recognize as concern. "She's going to get herself killed," Mara muttered, her mandibles clicking nervously. The other cadets pressed closer to the viewing screen, watching the scene unfold on the planet's surface below. A human xenobiologist named Dr. Sarah Chen had ventured into the restricted zone of Verlac Prime, a world known for its apex predators. The creatures here had evolved in a gravity well twice that of Earth, making them dense, powerful, and utterly lethal to most known species. "Why did Command approve this expedition?" asked Zix, a young Andromedan whose crystalline form refracted the viewport's light into dancing rainbows. "The Verlacian fauna has a 97% fatality rate for first contact scenarios." "Because she insisted," Mara replied, her voice tight. "Humans always insist." On the screen, Dr. Chen moved through the violet-tinged forest with surprising grace for a species that had only achieved interstellar travel 3 generations ago. Her environmental suit was specially modified, lighter than standard issue with enhanced mobility joints. The humans called it practical adaptation. Everyone else called it inadequate protection. The cadets had been studying humanity for 6 standard cycles now, ever since the species had been welcomed into the Galactic Federation. They were an oddity, a species that had somehow survived on a death world without developing natural armor, venomous defenses, or even particularly impressive sensory organs. By all calculations, they should have been prey species. Instead, they had clawed their way to the top of their planet's food chain through sheer audacity in what one Croatian anthropologist had termed weaponized insanity. "Movement detected," announced the ship's AI. "Verlacian predator juvenile classification. Distance 40 meters and closing." The cadets fell silent. Even through the screen, they could see it. A creature roughly the size of a human torso, covered in chitinous plates that gleamed like polished obsidian. It had 6 legs, each ending in claws designed to rend flesh from bone. Its head was mostly jaw, filled with rows of crystalline teeth that could bite through standard hull plating. The creature that the xenobiology database had designated as Tech, a juvenile male separated from his pack, was charging directly at Dr. Chen. "She's not moving," Zix whispered, their form flickering with distress. "Why isn't she moving?" "Humans freeze when confronted with danger," offered Kreth, a Croatian whose species prided themselves on their fight response. "A weakness in their neural architecture." But Latine Mara's eyes were fixed on the screen, watching carefully. She had spent more time studying humans than any other cadet in her cohort. There was something else happening here. Dr. Chen had indeed stopped moving. But as Tech charged closer, 30 meters, 20 meters, she did something that made every cadet in the observation deck recoil in horror. She squatted down, she opened her arms wide, and she yelled, her voice booming through the communication link. "Come here, baby monster." The observation deck erupted in chaos. Zix's form shattered into 1,000 panicked fragments before reforming. Kreth's combat stimulators activated involuntarily, flooding his system with adrenaline. 3 other cadets simultaneously reached for the emergency communication panel to warn Dr. Chen, even though they knew the signal delay would make any warning useless. Only Latine Mara remained still, watching. Tech crashed into Dr. Chen with enough force to shatter a Vextar's exoskeleton. The human disappeared beneath the juvenile predator's mass, and for a moment every cadet was certain they had just witnessed their first human fatality. Then they heard it. Laughter. Dr. Chen was laughing, a sound so unexpected that the ship's AI momentarily classified it as a distress signal. But as the camera drones adjusted their angle, the cadets could see what was actually happening. Tech wasn't attacking. The juvenile predator was rolling on his back, his 6 legs flailing in the air while Dr. Chen scratched his armored belly with both hands. The creature's tail, tipped with a venomous barb that could drop a fully grown Croatian in seconds, was wagging so hard it was kicking up clouds of violet dust. "Impossible," Kreth breathed. The Verlacian species matrix shows no capacity for social bonding outside their pack structure. You're reading old data, Mara said quietly. This is what humans do. They don't just survive on their death world, they befriend it. The cadets watched in stunned silence as Dr. Chen produced something from her pack, what appeared to be a compressed protein cube. Tech snatched it from her hand with surprising gentleness for a creature with jaws that could crush titanium alloy. He devoured it in 3 bites, then immediately rolled back over, presenting his belly again. She's domesticating it, Zik said, their voice filled with something between awe and terror. In real time. Without any prior relationship. Without any safety protocols. No, Mara corrected, her mandibles spreading in what humans had taught her was called a smile. She's making a friend. Over the next hour, the cadets observed as Dr. Chen played with Tech. Teaching him to fetch, he brought back a boulder. To sit, he crushed 3 trees in the process, and to respond to his name. By the time the adult Verlakians returned, creatures that stood twice the height of a human and radiated menace, they found their juvenile happily curled in Dr. Chen's lap, making a sound that the database had never recorded before. A deep, rumbling purr. The adult predators approached slowly, their posture defensive. But Dr. Chen didn't run. She simply smiled, held up another protein cube, and said something that the translation matrix barely captured. Who's a good boy?
You're all good boys.
By the time Dr. Chen returned to the ship 3 hours later, she had been adopted by an entire pack of apex predators. She had also collected enough behavioral data to rewrite the entire Verlakian species profile. In the observation deck, Mara turned to address her fellow cadets. This is why we study humanity, not because they're the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but because they look at the universe's monsters and see friends. They survive because they refuse to accept that survival means staying afraid. Zix's crystalline form flickered thoughtfully. The humans have a saying for this, don't they? Mara's mandibles clicked in affirmation. Yes, they call it HFY. She paused, watching as Dr. Chen waved goodbye to Tech through the viewport, the juvenile predator pawing sadly at the ground. Humanity, fuck yeah. The cadets stood in silence, watching the human walk away from death itself, having turned it into something that wagged its tail. It was the most terrifying and inspiring thing any of them had ever seen.